Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is building a multi-channel commerce platform. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Vijay Kumar HC, Senior Manager Technology at Sapient Nitro. Vijay Kumar HC is a Senior Manager Technology in Sapient Nitro. He has got more than 12 years of experience in design and implementation of telecom products and large-scale e-commerce application. His specialized skills are designing high-performance applications and expert in performance tuning and scaling the large-scale applications and products. Currently, he is playing a role of technology lead for e-commerce engagements. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker, Mr. Vijay Kumar. Over to you, Mr. Vijay Kumar.
Okay, so able to hear me, Grima?
Yes. You can proceed, please.
Okay, so we'll get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Before we do this presentation, I would like to introduce myself, and then we can get started with the presentation. So my name is Vijay Kumar, and my overall experience around 12 years, and work both in product and project-based organization. Joined Sapient 5 years back, and last 3-4 years I'm mainly focusing on building e-commerce application. So the content for this presentation, right, it's really vast. If you look at multi-channel platform, it's not something that we can cover in 1 hour. Just to set the expectation, this particular presentation talks about building the core multi-channel platform, which comprises of the core architectural principle and guidelines. And this is not about any discussion regarding any commerce package available in the market like ATG, WCS, imbibes, nor any third-party integration like order management, ratings and reviews, external interfaces, and not definitely any kind of a database design. It's about building the architecture around few design principles so that we can build a core platform. So moving on to the content, what are we going to cover in this presentation? So definitely we're going to talk about what is multi-channel commerce mean, and what the vision of that platform, and platform, and what are the multi-channel commerce platform, the realization. Then we will go and we'll see how we can enable a regular typical application catalog and content for a multi-channel. Then definitely we'll talk about relevant framework, code packaging, and planning. All of this, it in itself is a big topic. So, but we are covering a kind of a guidelines and a principle where we can use it to design the core architecture platform. And some of the items that we're going to talk about are with respect to the multi-channel consideration, and definitely there are a lot of other considerations that needs to be taken care as part of building the multi-channel platform. So moving on to the next, what is commerce? What do we mean by commerce? These are the simple multi-channel could be even a care application. If you look at the presentation, and then I can explain what this means. Earlier, like a few years back, for us, what is a commerce platform mean? It's only web and mobile. Industry is moving towards a multi-channel. What are you looking here? You have a point of sale, you have you have tabs, the channels are getting for example, most go to the theater and to collect the ticket platform. So now, for the multi-channel count differ from an simple scenario. And whenever we get it, and how do we build? We build a web commerce application, and of course we'll have a catalog serving for the web commerce. Over a period of time, client want to enhance or take his solution or web mobile. Then we'll think of building some of the components, and we'll definitely reuse some of the components. But again, it's going to be a clean build of the application, and of course we might share. If you look at this, we might share our catalog, which might be a common across application. And if you're going to do a POS application, then again it's going to be a store app, and we might share or might not share the catalog. This is a conventional commerce application, as in we build the application as and when the demand comes, or as and when the new channel arises in the market. So what are the challenges that there are a lot of, which could be a program management challenge, or it could be a lot of third-party integration challenge. It could be overall and increase development time, because we have the version of software needs update across all the channels so that the customer can see the content consistently and seamlessly. And low return on investment, because you're investing for each and every channel, and you're spending that amount even to maintain it. So what is the platform vision? So what we are looking at the platform, of course, first and foremost, is the code reuse. And the second one is the enhanced maintainability, cost efficiencies. So what do I mean by code reuse? Use the code whatever we written for particular channel. That means unlock access to the common platform presentation and business logic to multiple clients by providing reusable APIs, UI components, and punch-outs. That means leverage the channel. Once you develop a platform, leverage for multiple channels. And of course, enhanced maintainability, future enhancement. Tomorrow we could add more services, or we could add more channels. We should be able to enhance it. Cost efficiencies. Of course, cost efficiency is not only new channel development, but also reduce long-term maintenance cost. We don't want to maintain application for each and every channel, but we'll also ensure that we use a maximum utilization of the existing components. And just to give what kind of application we are going to application going to consume the commerce services. If you look at the commerce, you have a web, you have wireless, you have kiosk, and of course there are many more. And the other application, it could be a care, loyalty management, promotion management. There are a lot of other applications which work. third application in the Facebook or Twitter where you like a lot of commerce, social, what we call it as a social commerce, where you can click one click away to buy anything that comes on the site. So there's clearly a third-party application integrations which also comes into the picture. And of course, there are a lot of native apps which are coming out of the market. It's like an Android application, iOS application, which can directly consume the commerce platform services. This is just to give a glimpse of what application landscape looks like in a typical multi-channel commerce platform. And this is how we can, this is one of the approach and one of the worked-out approach where we used it. This commerce architecture, if you look at, we are slicing your application in a typical Java J2 architecture layers. And of course, there are more to it. If you look at, we have a presentation layer, you have business layer and a data layer. This is on a high level. This looks very simple. And it says that, okay, I have a typical Java J2
Mr. Kumar?
layering architecture here.
Mr. Kumar, you there?
Yeah. Hello? 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 Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, you were not audible.
Okay, now?
Now I can hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay.
Can you go back to the previous slide? Can we start again?
Okay, thank you.
All right,
So,
thank you.
sure. Yeah. If you look at a typical application landscape, right, these are the applications which consume the commerce platform. We have the commerce applications, web, well-known channels, web and wireless, and we have a kiosk, you have a store, POS application in store, and the other applications are like a customer care application, your loyalty management, promotion management, and third-party applications where we are now seeing the social commerce, where in Facebook or Twitter or any ads, you can buy stuff. It's like a one-click away from buying any stuff, where you can integrate your commerce services to those the third-party application. And also we have a native application where those applications consume the commerce services. So this is a glimpse of application landscape which potentially uses the commerce services. And of course, there are more applications than this. This is just important ones and which we usually come across. Yeah, if you look at for multi-channel platform, we have 3 layers. This is similar to any other Java J2E layer architecture, but it also has more components to it. In the presentation layers, we have UEs, basically the presentations for mobile, web, POS, or tablet, or could be any other channel. And we have a UE widgets, plug-and-play components, and a business delegates and the components. And in the business layer, we have a facade and service, and of course, we have catalog, content, and profile. These are the 3 important services which we usually come across in commerce application. And of course, we have the data layer. If you look at this is how we develop our Java J2 application. If I want to convert this into a platform, what should I do? I have to make most of the stuff in common. And what are those things that are in common? So if you look at, this is a common platform. If you look at all of this components, can build one, and you can leverage, and you can add channels as and when the new channel comes across. And if you look at the maintenance cost of the platform is not that much, because it's only one time you build and maintain it. And only the presentation layer will change, and this will get added as and when new channel comes in. Okay, now moving on to the what are these layers and what are the different guidelines in the principle or what that we should be using as part of this architecture. If you take the presentation layer, you should not have any business logic. Move all your business logic to the service layer, and should not have any duplication of code between the presentation and service layer. Once you start identifying it's a business logic and move to the service layer, you should not have such code in presentation layer, so that we should not have a duplication, because presentation layers, presentation components are different per channel. Should have loose coupling to the subsystem through interface layer to the service layer. That means the presentation layer should have a clear contract established to the service layer. And definitely presentation layer should not have a direct interaction with the database. Of course, it depends on package to the package implementation, but this is what we recommend. And should have a mechanism to cache the service call. So caching is very important, where we can cache some of this call. If the service call could be a native or it could be a web service call. In case of a web service call, it makes more sense to have a caching framework. And next comes to the interface layer. I'll go back to this interface. So you have a presentation layer, you have the interface layer. This is the contract between the presentation and business is to the interface layer. We have start and we become service. If I go back to the guideline, track between the presentation layer and the service layer. It has all the service definitions and value objects or a DTO declaration. And it enables the loose coupling, and that means no compile time dependencies. And it provides multiple ways of consuming the services. You can actually develop multiple interfaces. It will be a native call. You just consume it as it is, or it could be a web service via SOAP and REST. Then come the facade layer, and of course, if you look at the service in the facade layer, facade just again, it should not have any business logic system, and it should hide the complexity and interdependencies between the catalog, content, and profile and order. Facade layer is a kind of unified interface exposed to the presentation. Then the key layer is the service layer, and of course I'm not going to give all of this point, but nutshell, it should not request or session object, because we are not sure how the channel presentation layer for each channel will be developed. So it should not bound to any of the request or session object. The service layer should be stateless, and it should not manage session, so that we can scale it horizontally, and at the same time we can actually serve multiple channels through the same service layer, and should be able to expose the business layer functionality to the external client via services. Of course, it's services, so all the business layer functionality should be converted as services. Be agnostic to the client, as I said earlier, should ensure the proposed functionality is an automatic unit of work in itself. So each service layer, each services in the service layer should be automatic in function. That means if I say get product and I give list of criteria, you should be able to do all the business calculation and retrieve the end result. There should not be multiple calls to do the get products or get SKU items. And the service layer should cache the data when data is not session specific. If it is not session specific, that means if it is a global data where it's not depending on the user profile, then the service layer should be able to cache data. And should centralize the component interaction between lower level and business component. A typical architecture of a multi-channel platform looks like this. Let me explain this for a second. You have an e-commerce web, you have an m-commerce web, you have a JSPs and a form handler, where this can be very specific to the web and m-commerce. Business delegate, even this business delegate can be common across all channels. And this business delegate directly interacts with your e-commerce interface, where you make all the calls to the business delegates, and it is a common module that the channels can use. And in the service layer, you have, like, I've taken the three major component the e-commerce, but this can also be more than this. It's not just an e-commerce catalog and a content; it can also be more than this. But just to depict this in architecture, I've taken the three services, catalog services, and look at the its interaction is, and these intercouple it has the layers, and down below you'll what I call the external interface. It could be payment gateway, or it could be any interfaces that you want to do in the commerce platform. You can push to the core modules, and commerce framework where libraries or as part of we out of the can be of this that it's available and you have a ER file out of this. And we have a e-commerce common this contract. We have services defined in the interfaces and as well as in the e-com, where we have to get some of this contract from the layer. Then we talked about the framework. What kind of framework other than the out-of-the-box framework? What are the relevant frameworks that we can potentially use while building the multi-channel platform? In the presentation layer, we can think of having a state machine. Basically, it controls the page navigation, and it is totally configuration driven, and the flow can be customized per channel. If you have a state machine, and if it controls the page navigation, because it in a commerce world, the page navigation is very important, and it should be configuration driven. The state machine provides such kind of flexibility where you build a state machine framework one and start using for the multiple channel, and that definitely reduces your overall complexity of building the state machine for each and every channel. It's like a plug and play kind of configuration. And you have a UE widget framework. A best example would be take a checkout where you have in a web you might have to enter like 5 fields. In a mobile you have to just enter 3 or 4 mandatory fields. And how do I leverage my checkout page for that matter? If I slice each of the components into sub-components and then start include those components as part of my pages, then I can actually achieve 2-channel page development in one go itself. So to enable that, we definitely need a UE widget framework where you slice the pages into multiple components and plug and play the component to construct a page, where I can actually say that I don't want this particular field, I only take this particular field for this channel, and or I add this particular more fields in the PO in case of a POS where you need to enter more additional fields in the POS world. And where you can definitely reuse the widget across all channels. So what we are talking here is we are going ahead, not just consuming the services, but even in the presentation layer, we are reusing the components. And one important framework that we definitely want to have it in presentation layer is a cache framework. Of course, it will boost the performance and also avoid the redundant cost to service layer for the same data. Service layer framework. So again, if you look at the cache framework is still there. We definitely need a cache framework across all the layers. And in addition to that, again, I'm repeating, I'm not talking about any OTB framework here. It's a framework that we could potentially use to make our development or to make our architecture more robust. If we have an access rule framework which basically executes set of business rules. The service layer comprises of a lot of business calculations, and how do you want to execute those business calculations? And this access rule framework will provide such kind of flexibility where you can plug the business rule and it's truly a configuration driven. And you can actually add, delete business rule based on the channel, and that is also possible within the same platform. And definitely users can The one another framework that we can potentially build or use is the external interface framework, where it interacts with the external application, or a third-party integration for, and we can actually integrate with external URLs kind of configuration till the cache configuration. And extending our framework, we could go till catalog layer and start using the command chain framework again, where it executes the sequence of commands, basically a set of catalog rules, right? If I, for example, if I want to do a get product, what kind of rules I should execute in a catalog layer? So how do I systematize those kind of rules? So a command chain framework will definitely help us in structuring our commands, or what we call it as a catalog rule. And again, it's a configuration driven, where I can have a different kind of rule if required per channel. And of course, catalog layer will definitely have a cache framework to boost the performance, to cache the final result, because not all the catalog calculation can happen in the database. Some of the calculation has to happen in the Java code. So Java code calculations are definitely time and CPU intensive. So those kind of calls, I can cache it where I don't have to do that kind of calculation again. Definitely a cache framework in a catalog layer will help in speeding up your application. Now comes the catalog and the content. Again, the catalog and content itself is a vast in the multi-channel platform. I'm going to talk about a very key differentiator between an application in the platform or a multi-channel platform. What is that key differentiator which enables your catalog or content from an application to a multi-channel platform? So a typical challenges in case of a multi-channel platform is the product needs to be enabled disable channel. You don't want to show some of the products in mobile, and you want to show that some products in web. How do I control it? And image needs to have a different resolution by channel. Of course, I cannot render the same images which I render on a web application on the mobile handset and over wireless, because it's definitely a bandwidth consideration you have to take care. And the site content need to be varied by channel. And again, all the content labels that you show on mobile and web, this should be different. Pricing promotion may vary by channel. Catalog duplication, channel need unique error messaging. If I have to build the catalog for each and every channel, then it becomes a catalog duplication. That means all your catalog maintenance, provisioning the catalog into database, and your database sizing, all of this thing will get duplicated, and you will not have a consistent catalog layer for all the channels. So how do I enable the multi-channel thing for the catalog and the content? So the key thing is enable catalog for multi-channel site by adding variation to the catalog. That means identify each channel by channel ID. Channel ID is just name I've taken here. It could be application ID, or it could be any kind of ID that identify that you want to go with. And add channel ID variation at a product level, SKU level, all levels had the channel ID variation. And also make sure that your all promotion, personalization are also associated with the channel ID. It is not definitely duplicating the catalog content, it's kind of a reference in a database. Again, not going to, and avoid duplicate table data, reference the product and SKU detail for each channel. Basically a reference that you want to add, where for this particular channel you can always include or exclude certain type of product and SKU. And similarly, enable content for multi-channel by using a common content repository for all channels. Make sure that your content repository should be common for all the channels, and adding channel ID to the content mapping definition. Each of your content mapping definition add a channel ID to it, so that you know that okay, this content is mapped to this channel. If I have to show the picture of the presentation of that, you have CMS, you have a this is a ATG related slide, where if you see the catalog data is enabled to vary by channel. In the BCC, while you provision, make sure that the data, when you deploy the product or the catalog, add a channel variation to that product catalog. And again, the content authors make sure that the DCT data content capture templates are enabled to vary by channel, and this is having the channel level data. So when it flows to the system, this is when it shows to the system, it will have the channel variations in the catalog repository and in the content repository. So now, how do we package the entire architecture? How do I arrange my code to support above architecture and address few concerns? If you look at what are the concerns, of course, the build and deployment itself is again a big topic. We are talking only from how do I structure my code base. I've talked about a common platform. How do I structure my common platform? So if you look at the development team, they definitely have this typical concern. I control my own how do I define my and I don't want to deploy, I don't want to build underlying service layer catalog, whatever is required. That definitely reduces the build time. And the operation team, with respect to, will want to have this. What that means is, if I want to bring down one channel, how do I keep my other channels up and running? And that's very important in the multi-channel commerce platform. Achieve the operational efficiency and turnaround for production fixes. How do I make sure that I take care of the mobile platform deployment, not mobile channel deployment, not the entire channels? And the business stakeholder, definitely they want to have a better control of services and multiple reason planning. Definitely business want to have more enhancement to the web, but not to the mobile. They want to go that enhancement in the latest releases. How do I control that kind of releases? So the answer to that is, your code model structure should be structured in a way where you can actually have that kind of separation of the code structure. Or how do I, the code model structure depends on a lot of factors, and it depends mainly on following three. One is definitely the functionality. You create your model based on the profile, cart, checkout, catalog, content, mobile web, wide web, browse, promotion. These are the functionality in a typical commerce application. Of course, this functionality can vary, and you might have ratings and reviews, you might have third-party integrations here. And this is from the functionality lane. If you look at the architecture lane, you have a presentation layer, you have a facade layer, you have all the layers, interfaces. Consider the architecture lane. With this, arrive at a model structure. We talked about how the typical model structure looks like, but these are the three lanes that you need to consider. Each model should be bundled as I three lanes, then that should work. And uh, account that means down what model should come up. This equation can give you more mathematical variety of the platform. If you want to push this, definitely give real scenario. And yeah, this is a e-com model structure. What I've just explained. You have each layer. You have an artifact, EI framework.jar, caching framework, common jar, and you have profile service. If you look at all the modules or components converted into an artifact, these are can be consumed by these channels, UI layer, m-commerce, commerce war, commerce scheduler. All of these things can consume the underlying artifacts through a dependency management. And all of this are not directly related. It's all related to artifact repository, not a direct source code reference in your project workspace. So moving on to the performance and scalability. Again, we will talk about what are the few factors that you consider while building this multi-channel commerce platform. Of course, we're not going to talk about the profiling aspects of it, all kinds of tuning, UV, web server, app server, database tuning, but it's more of what kind of key consideration that you usually need to take care while building the multi-channel platform. So definitely, what are the challenges? Of course, you want to build a highly robust service platform. That means if you are serving only the catalog part, if you're only serving the commerce layer, then you should be able to scale those layers. That means the service platform should be scalable and uniform service experience across all channels. That means if you're browsing in mobile and browsing in web, you don't. Of course, the page load time will differ based on the mobile and the web sites, but you should not have a different cache strategy. That means the cache eviction should be at the same time. There's something which is getting refreshed in mobile, the same time even the web should also get refreshed. So how do you give that kind of uniform service across all channels? And flexibility to scale individual services and channels. Basically, I should be, because definitely my traffic for the website will be more than definitely for any of the kiosk or a mobile channels. Then how do I scale only the web platform? So these are some challenges that we usually face in a performance. So there are a lot of factors that you need to consider while thinking about a performance and scalability. One factor which I have taken just to give how do we think while building the multi-channel platform is the quality of service. Quality of service for underlying layer should be greater or equal to the above. That means the below system, I'm not talking about order and DI because we are not talking about it, but if you look at a catalog and a profile service, definitely this should be more stable or more available than the above layer. Because you're not talking about one particular channel. If this channel might go down, it should be fine, but you don't want this because it might be catering to the multiple channels. So if you look at the order of this availability, it should be like, it always should be increasing, or it should be same. So this is just a one kind of performance factor that we want to consider while building the platform. And thus few thumb rules. Capture quantitative performance goal for each system and subsystem. The moment I say subsystem is a different layer, service layer. And during the design file, apply all performance best practice for each service layer. So we definitely will have a separate activity of fine-tuning the performance. Make sure that you apply all performance best practices for each service layer. Introduce cache framework. So what and loose coupling between underlying services. Failure of any subsystem should not result in a platform failure. That means failure of one system. Let's say there is order management is not up and running, and how do you collect the order but process it later, batch process it? That is something like loose coupling between the underlying systems. Implementation phase. Make sure that you profile each system and subsystem. Profile each layer. This profile each layer itself is a big topic to talk about. UV, web server, JVM, database, network, infrastructure. But make sure that you take subsystem in isolation and then tune it. And during performance testing phase, make sure that you do a detailed load testing for the entire platform and also for the subsystem. And make sure that you only do the performance evaluation for the catalog layer, because there are a lot of third-party application might be consuming only your catalog layer, not your entire commerce services application. And how do you give a uniform service experience? Some few thumb rules, right? One, common performance strategy across all channels. That means make sure that your cache refresh strategy is common and common business complementing tasks. The service layer should have should be common across all these channels. I'm not talking about the deployment, but I'm talking about the completing task should be same, so that it will give you the uniform service or SLAs to the end channel, and common error handling strategy. And optimize service layer and presentation layer to meet respective SLA. So make sure that once you optimize service layer, and also make sure that you optimize presentation layer to meet the respective SLA. So in case of mobile or a case where you want a faster response, how do you optimize service layer? Because anyway, service layer is going to be common. Make sure that you introduce light version of service API, so that you get retrieved more faster than a typical web application. And optimize service call. Use pagination framework in underlying layers than presentation layer. In a presentation layer, if you fetch all the information from the service layer and then start showing, then your mobile, the very fast response on a mobile page will be very slow. So make sure that you have a pagination framework in the service layer, so that you don't retrieve the data than what is required. Use native service call or remote web service call within the platform. If you are hosting a platform and hosting a multiple channel, make sure that you use native service call or remote service call to avoid round trips. And ensure that you do a session management in the presentation layer. Cache framework, make sure that you have a global caching, session caching, distributed caching, either using or torrents, where you distribute your cache across all GVM. Then few thumb rules to scale the services. Design each service layer to scale independently. Ability to scale only catalog service layer. Should not have any dependencies on the above layers or the below layers to scale individual service layer. And load balance the connectivity between the layers. If you are serving some of the layers through remote, make sure that you have some load balancer, either an F5 load balancer or a MarkJK in case of web server, and use sticky session or conventional JVM cluster to avoid performance. And this is only in case of a session. If you definitely want to have your platform little bit of session awareness, definitely depends on situation to situation, but make sure that your layers are effectively. Design each subsystem and subsystem to handle sudden or expected spike load during Cyber Monday and Black Friday. These are the events whenever the client want to go on a Cyber Monday or a Black Friday or some event. In that case, there will be a sudden surge in the traffic. So your system should be able to take that kind of load. So make sure that you get taken care of those considerations as well. And isolate mobile and wired channel deployment for better scalability. What we are saying is isolate your channel deployment, so that you will avoid the impact of if one channel goes down, the other channel will always be up and running. So that you will always give some kind of availability to the customer. Only the particular channel will go down, but other channels are always up and running. And the ability to switch off and switch on subsystem functionality keeps site minimum function are available during major events. Let's say always logging the personalization data is CPU intensive and also performance intensive, right? And how do you switch off that when you know that, okay, during my surge or spike loads, how do I switch it off so that their common functionalities are available to the end user? And the last and of course the important one is scaling strategy for each subsystem, horizontal or vertical. Horizontal, you definitely need to consider horizontal if there is a resource contention to that system, and vertical scaling front app service layers, etc. I think this is got typo here. Horizontal, you have a front application and service layer, and vertical in case of SLM where you cannot scale some of the component horizontally. So what are the key takeaways from this presentation? As I explained, this multi-channel commerce has a different view the way you look at. This presentation is giving you a perspective of how do you look at your platform, the architecture itself. How do you build that kind of platform where you can scale and it can cater to the different channels or future channels. So what you need to consider while building multi-channel commerce, it is agnostic to any commerce package or a future channel, right? I'm not even worried about what channel is going to come tomorrow, but my platform is already ready to take care of that kind of changes. And responsibility for each layer and relevant framework. So what each layer should be doing, and how do we define a borderline for each of those layers, and what will be effectively utilized, should be used in building that kind of framework. Key consideration to enable catalog and content. So one of the key considerations, how the catalog and content should be varied by the channel ID, and how to structure the entire code base. Of course, in case of a multi-channel architecture, the code base is beast, and you need to definitely have a very systematic way of packaging and clearly carve out a dependency between the modules. And a few thumb rules for performance and scalability consideration. So any questions? I'll be able to take it.
Right, thanks for the insightful presentation, Mr. Vijay Kumar. Let's quickly take up the questions now. The questions are there in your questions pane. That's towards the bottom of your control panel. Please check the questions.
Yeah, I'm just going. Yeah. I'm waiting for the question.
You've got the questions?
I did not actually. I'm just waiting.
Sorry?
No, I did not.
It's there in your chat pane. It's there in your chat pane.
Okay, 1 minute. I got it.
Okay, great. You can read out the questions and their answers.
Okay. The very first question from Priyanka. Are these frameworks specific to Java technology only? So it depends on what platform we are building. If we were building in a Java platform, these frameworks are kind of a concepts where you can build this kind of framework in the respective languages. If you are building on a Java or a .NET, then there's more of the functionality kind of framework rather than any specific language dependent framework. Okay, so I'll move to the next question. What are the factors influencing it externally on a cloud? So the cloud part comes in kind of a deployment, and this particular presentation is about talking at the architecture, where the deployment could be on a VMware or a server, or it could be on a cloud. And there are different set of considerations that we need to take when we usually deploy on a cloud. Moving on to the third question from Sachin Deshmukh. How do you ensure convergence of multiple channel experience to B2C, e-commerce, non-commerce? I'm looking for key drivers to provide a unified customer across all or any channel. B2C, e-commerce, I'm looking for key drivers to provide a unified experience across all channels. So one, definitely the unified experience. Of course, I'm not talking about the user experience or a UI aspect of it. If you look at the service layer, the service layer is a common across all of this. What are the how do you say that unified experience? Unified experience comes with the business logic. It should be the same business logic, or it could be the same catalog data where you go and the pricing information, right? You should not have different kind of pricing for a mobile or a different kind of pricing for the web channel. So if you scale or if you develop your platform and if you make sure that you use that all of for all the channels of the same platform or the same API, then you can actually give the unified experience to the customer. Of course, the presentation layer will change. It depends on how do you want to put your mobile UV and web UV, but underlying data which is coming out of service platform is same. And question from Manik. I don't think if you didn't talk about internalization, catalog, and content and related framework, can you please give us an insight on that? So this is a question from. I'll take this internalization later. Let me complete the question from Vandana again. What may be a typical e-commerce application development time, assuming frameworks, etc., are available? This is. I'm not sure whether we have a single answer for this. It depends on what is the complexity that you're looking, what kind of integration you're looking for, and whether you have a right set of skills of people. You start from your ramp up to that kind of skill set and building that platform, understanding what kind of a package you want to use it, and in a typical simple startup store will definitely take somewhere between 6 to 9 months. Okay, this is a question from Monica. Let me take this question. What are all the consideration or approach before we build up a customer service model for any multi-channel retailers, and how is this platform different, better than those of the open source e-commerce solution for open and the novel, the current leading? Okay, so if you look at it is not about we are replacing this with ATG, WC or imbibes. Even if you go with ATG, WCS or imbibes, ATG, WCS, imbibes will not give that kind of structure and architecture where you can plug and play your channels. You have to build on top of that. How do you use those kind of packages in order to reduce your event development time? And this is a guidelines. You will definitely underlying like a cart functionality or your profile functionality or a personalization. You will definitely rely on the underlying commerce packages. But this is how do you structure? How do you effectively use those packages? So this is those are the considerations that we talked about here. What is available out of the box, and what is the typical if to build something like this on top of the product? Again, it's like how well you want to develop. Like let's say if I'm talking about a framework, each framework has its own life cycle where you develop the framework, you make it stable, and keep it in a private repository where you other project can use it. But a typical this kind of framework and just a framework, you definitely need again if like a team of 5 people. I'm just giving a very ballpark number. People definitely need 8 to 9 months to build this kind of framework. Sorry, the question from Amit, I just answered. So the question from Prakash, what are the products available in the market for building platform? Any open source product? There are a lot of products. I personally not worked on the open source product, but worked on ATG and some work on the imbibes and WCS. This is any other questions? I think I covered most of the questions.
You want to take up more questions? You have, I think, you have many questions in the questions pane. So if you want, you can take more questions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. How do you? This is a question from Dalvis Suri. How do you create a light service layer? Is it creating another service layer in duplication? It is definitely not another. It's a light API. So that's where the facade thing comes up, where you will have a multiple view for the underlying components, right? Underlying service layer. Let's say I'll call this get products, and I'll pass it like I need all. Let's say 100. And how would my light API? It is the same API, but with more constraints or parameter defined for that API. And only the facade will change, and underlying the facade will use the same API. It's only the definition will change. And again, while those service underlying service call will use those constraints in order to give you that kind of data, where you want data give 100 products or you want to have 10 products. It is not definitely a different API. It's just a name, new name defined in the facade layer, but utilizing the underlying same API. Do you, okay, again the question from Dalvesh Suri, do you recommend using message queues for high availability of different service layers so that we don't lose out message even if a service layer is down? If you, this definitely message queues is one of the things that definitely want to use it, but it depends on what is the communication between the service layer. If it is a synchronous, then there is no point of having a message queues. If it is an asynchronous, then definitely we need to look at, because the whole architecture will change if you make some of the calls as asynchronous, because usually we do that in the batch processing where we submit to the backend system and wait for the result at a later point in time. But in the case of online application, not sure whether we want to consider asynchronous messaging between the layers. Okay, this is a question from Gaurav Tiwari. What is the service benefit can be achieved using eBay open source service or Apache open source like Israel? I'm sorry about this because I've not worked on eBay open services. But if you can ask a question a little differently, then let me see if I can answer from, because this is mainly from I'm talking mainly from a typical architecture where this architecture you can use it across any packages available in the market.
All right, let's conclude the session then. Thanks, Mr. Vijay Kumar, for your session. And it was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Vijay Kumar, once again. Have a great day.
Thank you.